somebody posted, I'm calling for a boycott of Young Miami's song Spend That. I believe it's degrading to our culture. I was shot for respectability politics.
I feel like Arie has a history of like presenting conservative takes, it wrapped up in incense, head wraps, and black girl tragic takes.
The respectability politics of clutching your pearls specifically at a Young Miami song, when, as we've talked about, there's been legions of people making songs in ode to theft, in ode to murder.
Y'all don't ever have that issue unless it's a woman. And y'all only seem to clutch your pearls. Oh, it's ruining society because we rapping about wet pussy.
Who gonna boycott it? Like, let's be for real. You pushing to want to boycott a song. There are people hungry in America. There's so many bigger issues, but here's what you want to die on. This hill right here.
Hey, whoa. Let me tell you why I've gathered you here today. As you may have heard, Young Miami Spend That is the song of the summer, is what people are saying on the streets. Not me. People saying that. It is a banger though. But now there's this controversy. The internet has been losing their mind about this song for about the past week, because I'm going to read to y'all the original post on Threads that I saw. There were multiple people. There have been widespread, admittedly stupid criticisms of this song and what it means about Black people in the community as a whole and where we're at. But I'll tell you the kind of discourse that, really got fired up because Arie happened to respond to something. So somebody posted, I'm calling for a boycott of Young Miami's song Spend That. I believe it's degrading to our culture. At some point, we have to take seriously the power music has over our perception and the values it reinforces. This can't be the song of the summer. I was shot with respectability politics. Then Arie responds, I spent my entire adult life caring way too much because I finally learned that not everybody cares with a capital C, and explaining it to them is not going to make them care. Everything you listen to, see, or eat is going to influence you. So make wise choices, y'all. Then she goes on to make another individual post where she says, the mass acceptance of this song itself is a crystal clear sign of the bigger problem. I finally realized that not everybody wants to get free. And it was a very rude awakening. And then she said that again somewhere else. And then that spawned a thing. There was also there's a creator called Keandria who had to post up a video on TikTok that she made where she was calling out both the song Spend That by Young Miami and the movie I Love Boosters. Her position is very fucking stupid. She said, I haven't seen the movie. She's like, I haven't seen the movie. And I know I've heard from some of my friends that it has like an anti-capitalist, leftist message and that it's a nuanced thing. But I don't give a about that when young men and boys, Black men, are being shot and killed by police. Her argument is implicitly that Black men are being killed by police because they're stealing. And so this song, Spend That, and I Love Boosters, that even though I didn't watch the movie and I've been told that the movie's messaging is not what I believe it to be based on this title. This title, I Love Boosters, is going to encourage Black people to steal, and thus why they're being killed by the police. Not that the police are killing Black people because of systemic racism and because that's the function of policing and that police brutality is a part of the system. No, it's because of this kind of influence. Black people are stealing not as crimes of poverty, not out of necessity, not because of systemic poverty, but because they're being encouraged and gassed up by Young Miami and Boots Riley.
And to piggyback off of that, if you really want to go and hold anybody to flame, it's the systems itself that perpetuate and more so wage theft far more than any couple, gaggle of could in any case in point. And I think you could apply the same thing to Young Miami. I mean, is Young Miami the first one to make any song glorifying theft or scamming? Absolutely not. But I think that it's interesting when you look at the system in itself and take it off of the individual aspect. And you could begin to talk about Young Miami's character. You could begin to talk about, tangentially how she's related to Diddy and what exactly her role is in the, I want to say Diddy remix. I don't know, Diddy Reloaded, whatever comes when Diddy comes out. If there is some manufacturer consent to her and what she's laying down, that's a whole nother discussion I'm sure we'll have. But I think it's missing the forest for the trees if you don't look at the systems that perpetuate what exactly a Young Miami is talking about, rather than just focusing on Young Miami itself. And the thing about Young Miami is when she talks about scamming and scamming culture, and of course I have to bring in another character that I was talking about recently, someone like Woo Lady, who's also from South Florida. And then you take that into the same account. I also made a juxtaposition to someone like Natalie Nunn. All of these folks are glorifying the ways in which they are engaging in the desirability economy as a means of trying to gain access to resources. And those resources are, in this case, glorified by men who get those means by ill-gotten means. So scammers are scamming, people through, I don't know, credit card fraud or what have you. And there's an argument that I think could be made insofar as, okay, they're talking about scamming individual people as opposed to something like I Love Boosters, which is, someone stealing from Walmart or someone stealing from a corporation. That's a different type of dynamic as opposed to something like, oh, I get scam my 90-year-old Grammy somewhere by sending her a phishing link, and now I got access to her credit card information, and that's how I'm scamming, and I'm going to throw it prodigiously inside the club. These are conversations that we could have, but the problem is ain't like nuance. So I think once people began to, I agree, like the respectability politics of clutching your pearls specifically at a Young Miami song, when, as we've talked about, there's been legions of people making songs in ode to theft, in ode to murder, especially the fact that like you could pounce on a Black woman who is discussing the circumstances of which she's trying to find the best ways. It's unfortunate, but her economy is also her crime scene. The very things like she's talking about glorifying is also the things that damage her and inflict pain upon her. The misogyny and the desirability that she's able to access is also the very weapons against her. So why not we talk about the other system that is, the culprit of this, which is the patriarchy. As you listed, like the that are basically allowing or empowering this economy to do that is the men themselves that are also rapping about gangsters this, degrading the gals, them and that. And we don't have the same type of heat for them.
But before we go any further, let me tell you about this video's sponsor, ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free website and app where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment for the free. And ZocDoc isn't just for one type of care. They have more than 100,000 providers. That's more than 100,000 licensed medical professionals across nearly every specialty, from primary care to dental health, eye care to urgent care, and more, so that you can make sure you're being treated by the exact professionals you need. It's the one-stop shop for all your healthcare needs. So no need to call doctor's offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. I have been using ZocDoc since I was in college, long before I ever had a platform, which is why I always tell y'all that I love being sponsored by them, because I genuinely have no idea how people book all their medical appointments without ZocDoc. I can't imagine calling individual doctor's offices, booking on all their different websites and whatnot. No, baby. Ain't no way I'm doing that when I can click on ZocDoc and be shown any and every doctor who takes my insurance for whatever I need to see them for, and all their availability, and book all my appointments right then and there for free. It's so easy, which is why I've been using ZocDoc since Adam. Plus, ZocDoc helps you get appointments fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. And you can even score same-day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments you know you need to go to, and go to ZocDoc.com/AllurinatiPop, or go to the link in the description below to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Again, that's ZocDoc.com/AllurinatiPop, or click the link in my description to get started today. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to it.
My thing is, though, I have two questions. One, when was this decided that, hey, this is the song of the summer? Because that really confused me. I was really perplexed by that. I was like, what?
But I mean, what else though?
People with it real heavy. She came out of the BET Awards and people was real hype, like singing it. It is her first. Let me put it to y'all this way. Act Up. Remember Act Up by the City Girl?
Yeah.
that was undisputably the song of the summer of its time, right? Like this Spend That has passed Act Up on the Billboard. Like as it's Young Miami's like first ever like real entry, and it's past Act Up. So that's why they're saying that.
The Billboard is not a good barometer of
I'm just saying. I'm
just thinking because, like, what barometer do we really use anymore? Like, it's not really centralized in the same way.
People love the song. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that shouldn't be controversial. Like, people are really with the song. Like, that's the only reason they're bothering to cut pearls and complain, because that's what a bunch of people are arguing. The other argument, besides the people who are like, oh, this is glorifying crime and bad perception of Black people and yada, yada, yada nonsense. There are the other people that are saying, well, Young Miami, like their problem with this being, who are acknowledging it being this popular, their problem with that is that Young Miami is somebody who was defending Diddy and on the side of misogyny. She shouldn't be rewarded in this way. That's the argument that they're making, that they say it reflects badly on us as a culture, not because like the content of the song, but the fact that we're allowing this person, this morally dubious character, to be so successful after just doing that. That's the argument they're making.
My thing is with that though, is like, y'all don't ever have that issue unless it's a woman. There's incredibly morally dubious people in all forms of entertainment, rap or otherwise, and y'all only seem to clutch your pearls. Oh, it's ruining society because we rapping about wet pussy. Oh, it's ruining society because women scamming. It's ruining society. Like, girl, y'all don't have a problem with anybody else doing anything dubious in music or in real life. Men going to, having cases for all types of shit, been accused and committed of sexual assault, and y'all don't give a y'all don't give a they get caught for RICO. Y'all don't give a about any of that shit. But they wake up one day and they say, oh, this girl who this woman, I should say, admittedly has some dubious ties to a terrible person, and I'm not foolish enough to believe that she would suddenly drop those ties if he were to be released tomorrow, for instance. But like, to say that suddenly everyone is very concerned about Black culture and what that represents and all of that because a woman made a song about something, like, it's just stupid. It's just dumb as fuck.
It is. I don't think so. In this case, it's so many different avenues. You got people trying to compare it to the artistry. Now, this is all art. How we consume it is our business. And I think that, with Keandria breaking it down and trying to compare it to the Boosters movie that she never seen is problematic, right?
Which is incredible.
In its own ways. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I heard about it. But it's neither here or there. But when you're trying to pull and reach for this particular song to be something that it's not, we've had other songs, millions of other songs. And before Arie said anything about this, that has been something that they've been, from the time the song dropped, people have been trying to make this case that, she's not talented. It went from there to, hip hop music is going down, and the lyrics to this, we got these girls who was, all kinds of, it's all been all over the internet. When I first heard the song, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, girl, because it reminded me like of the song that she tried to drop before that, of the, what it is when you see them two fingers, whatever. And I was like, I don't like it.
I like
However,
it.
But then it grows on you.
Two fingers
touching. But then it grows on you. And then again, I'm from South Florida. So I heard the Florida mix to Spend That. Immediately added that to my playlist for working out. And baby, because the whole routine is Florida dances. If you're from South Florida, the whole routine that they make for the song, that's the dances that we do, all the things, right? So I'm like, okay, so when I hear it, it's something like, it gets the people going. It's innovative, right? That's what it is. The lyrics could be trash. We can watch a commercial that is trash, but it could be something we pick up that we say along the way. You don't have to like it. It is what it is. People do discourse on the internet every day. Arie, this is not her first time. Her first song that she made that went popular, I'm Not Your Average Girl from Your Video. That song, she talks about that kind of like, I've never been a part of that. In this particular way, she's always been talking about that, whether it was man, woman, in between. But I think with her feeling like the internet is her oyster. And I know everybody's like, it's just the internet. We should all be able to say something. I feel like with her celebrity, I love Arie, by the way. I'm just going to put that out there to let y'all know. Love her, mean it, know every single song of hers. She's changed my life. I'm going to all her concerts that's been here in the city. So I love your girl. But I will say, her commenting under somebody's post, because that's not the first time I've seen a post like that from the original poster who was pushing to want to boycott the song. Who gonna boycott it? Like, let's be for real. You pushing to want to boycott a song. There are people hungry in America. There's so many bigger issues, but here's what you want to die on, this hill right here. And then India, she in everybody's comments these days. I love her, mean it. I know that she's said that she's at the age where, and a lot of people who are her age are at where they don't give a damn. They're on the internet, but you are of a certain celebrity. So you're going to say something. They're not going to care about the person that said they wanted to boycott at the top. They're going to see your comment. And I think that also it moved away from you saying whatever you said, which were along the lines of, I learned not to care anymore because the industry, all this other stuff. They're not hearing that. They're hearing hateration and the holleration and the dancery. So it also looks elitist as well. You're going under there and it's kind of like you're judging the audience that consumes this form of art. And fortunately, everybody has a form of music that they like. Everybody ain't gonna like Arie. Again, I'm a lover of Arie. Let me sing neo soul. However, everybody ain't gonna like Arie. Are they gonna respect her? Yeah, I see that a lot. And I see the other people are looking like, who is this older lady hating on the younger woman and all the things. But I'm like, I think India doesn't know, girl, like, you are a celebrity. I hate to go that route because I know they're like, just because she's a celebrity, she should be able to say what she wants. I believe the same thing, but people aren't going to look at the person who posted it. They're going to see what you're saying. And then she didn't only go from that person's comment. She went to Kevin's under Kevin's post where Kevin was criticizing Young Miami for getting a lot of attention during her BET Awards performance. And he was doing the other bit of it where it's like, she is somebody that we can't forget what she's done. She's a part of the Diddy mess, and she's also abusive and all the things. And then India found her way over there to make a comment under that. And I'm like, girl, this is where it's starting to look again. You are criticizing the audiences that consume the music. And if you are a believer of all art, and again, you may not like that type of music. But you to come under here, to me, is criticizing the audience.
Also, what she's saying is just, let me just say, I like Arie's music. I have no thoughts on her as a person. There's no personal investment in the sentiment. But liking her music and respecting her craft will not make me pretend something is profound when it's not. And it actually, to me, because people respect Arie, they've lent it a lot of credence that I think is undeserved. People are like, well, she's right, but people should be able to enjoy music and blah blah blah. That's what a lot of the defense has been. She's right, but we should be able to just like songs and we should just be able to have fun in that. But she isn't right, because
she isn't.
She let me read more of what she says. She says when she goes to defend herself after this starts trending, she's like, for clarity, I did not say that I think anyone needs to boycott the song. I said it is a sign of where we are as a culture that this song has been accepted so widely, and that's facts. Pause right there. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
I said it is a sign of where we as a culture that this song has been accepted so widely. What about spend that? Based on what his music has been, what the culture has been, what has been out in the last history, what about spend that now is something? What is that telling you? What does that say as a culture? What is new about our culture that would allow for this song to be popular that wasn't present before, that wasn't true when Tip Drill and a million other things and all kinds of stuff was where? That's not true.
Booty, so whenever you said it's been a lot of really bad songs,
that isn't correct. What I had said on Threads when this started being a thing, I said this controversy around Young Miami song Spend That is a bunch of nonsense. And you don't have to pretend it's not because you like and respect Arie. Neither that song nor any other hip-hop music is responsible for the systematic and systemic issues y'all are attempting to blame it for. And invoking respectability politics to hate on one song will not help free any Black people. That's it. Because also when she says, oh, the fact that this song can be so widely accepted reflects where we are as a culture and why some of us don't want to be free. What about embracing the song? If Black people are not in the position that Black people are in because of Black people's own choices and personal, individual, or collective doing. Okay. That is not the case. Anything that implies it is fundamentally wrong and misguided. The situation that Black people are in, systemic poverty, systemic criminalization, disenfranchisement, these are all things that are being done on a systemic level by the governments, by the powers, by imperialism, by nations all across. Anti-Blackness is a whole pervasive,
he has songs that literally are saying the same thing you're saying
across the world. So when you say some stupid shit like a song that, because you think it's glorifying these Black people that are scamming or boosting, and that's the problem, like people are going to do it, it fucking implies that, one, the reason they're doing these things are just because of glorification. It completely dismisses that the whole systemic reality of where poverty and theft and any of this comes from. It makes it's wrong. She's wrong. She is categorically wrong.
I feel like Arie has a history of like presenting conservative takes, it wrapped up in incense, head wraps, and Black girl tragic takes. It's like I'm thinking about her take when Megan Thee Stallion performed, and she was like, when are we going to get new types of performances, like where she was saying that this is degrading to Black women. Yes. But I'm like, we can have conversations about why it is that so often, you know, Black women have to perform a form of like provocative or licentious performance in order to be received in the mainstream, to be taken seriously, right? I feel like every mainstream Black female artist we've had has had to present themselves in a more sexual manner in order to be taken seriously. Whereas you're going to get way more white Taylor Swifts than you're able to get Black iterations of that, right? And there's a system and a systematic reason for that. But instead of acknowledging systems, she does always ask us to lift ourselves up by our bootstraps and to see different representation. Yeah. But it's like, sister, nobody's, I mean, you know, Rebecca loves you, but the girls aren't checking for your music and the head wraps and the incense and all the things. And no tea, no shade. In addition to that, what I will say is the biggest scam for me about all of this, the biggest scamming ass is Young Miami, because how did you go from being a joke to the top of the headline? I mean, like I said, like Olay said, she lived for when them two fingers was touching her and and Young Miami's two other fans that live for that particular song. But she has been able to LOL. She's been able to LOL her way to the top of more serious, austere, like culturally critical conversations. And I'm like, this is the biggest scamming ass. This whole conversation is the biggest scamming ass, because, and I'm not shading her. Like, I've definitely LOL'd my way into, you know, getting things that I want, LOL'd my way into men's lives. You know, what is the expression? If you can make it laugh and jiggle, you can make the dick jump and jiggle. Amen.
Never heard
that
that
is the
one.
Proverb that I live by. But I'm just saying,
you can't laugh your panties off. That's how it happens.
Okay, thongs and all that.
That's another one.
My thing is, I also feel like, just to piggyback off of the point that Kenny was making earlier, it is obviously selective outrage. It is misogyny dressed up as, like, I can't even say a hot take. The takes are very cold. The takes are ice. The takes are giving me nothing. But I just was reading that Chris Brown's staff member is permanently disfigured, and she tiptoed off the scene. She skedaddled off the scene, leaving his staff member to fend for themselves, and he has to now pay them, you know, I think $13 million or what have you. But the girls, these same people, you know, these keyboard warriors in the comments saying Arie needs to shut up and Young Miami needs to stop doing the things and it's dangerous to our culture, have purchased tickets to the Chris Brown and Usher tour. So it's like, none of this is serious. Where the serious piece is for,
yeah. Oh, you didn't know they doing it together?
Yeah,
like they're co-headlining a tour, girl. Yes.
In fact, they could be in Miami in December.
And Mario, Tank, and Eric Bellinger are the background singers.
Damn.
I did not love that they were the background singers, because why are they the background singers? Why couldn't they have opened the door? Why are they the background?
And Chris Brown was just giving box shorts on stage.
But whatever.
Mario deserves more.
I like Tank.
Mario, first of all, Mario has classics that I would take to the grave.
And I was like, no, he doesn't.
No, not Omarion. Mario. He definitely deserves more than to be doing a couple oohs and ahs in the background of a Chris Brown set.
Opinions in recent times.
Yeah, Mario has misogynistic opinions for sure.
Mario, a lot of these really need to stop sharing with the public. I'm telling you, the days of so many artists do not realize how much they benefited from Mystique. You know what I mean? And like, social media, like that. Not stop.
I'm glad they showing they are, so I could know who really out there.
I'm tired of knowing.
I'm tired. Right. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
I want you all to break the fourth.
I want to know less.
It's too much of a task on me. I have too much, like, I feel like I'm trying to critically and be like always engaged with like, damn, this is a bop. This song really, I live for this. I'm doo-wopping. And now I find out you're conservative in X way, Y way, or Z way, or you're regressive or homophobic or misogynistic or sexist. And it's like, all of your art didn't have to be colored with all of this, right-wing propaganda if you would have just shut the up. No, but you want to open your mouth, and now songs, I'm not even talking about Young Miami at this juncture. I'm talking about just more generally. You just open your mouth and you ruin everything for me. So now every time I hear these songs, I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Do I bust the wine?
So everything that you guys have said, literally to the T, I can find an Indie Arie song for it because she said it, right? So it's like, girl, you know better, you talk better, you do all of this. However, here you are, and you made 3. No, she has. She made 3. She made 3 videos. She made 3 because I listened to her music. I can't just sit here and say that she hasn't. But that's what I'm saying. For somebody to talk about all these different things in the music and try to, you know all this stuff, but for you to go under a lot of people's posts that you know mean ill and mean terrible about another person, and you're bringing down another, and like we like it or not, the girl is an artist. Young Miami is an artist, and that's her craft. However, I'm like, and then India keeps making videos. She went online and made like a 3-part video to just say, you know, that she just don't like the song. That's pretty much what she's saying. And she wishes that people wouldn't like the song. But she said, that's not reality. But I'm like, you going under people's comments, they don't give a damn about the person that made it. They're going to go for you. You are now the center of the conversation. And then you keep trying to double down, triple down, and it ain't giving what you think it's giving. And then she keeps coming under the guise of she don't give a damn. But then with Young Miami, I'm like, girl, you know, and we have to know this with all kinds of songs. All the songs that were hits. I was shaking my ass at 9 to songs that made no damn sense. I was shaking my ass to, you know, at 10, 12, 15, all the things in college to songs that were dumb as hell. But it's like those people come and go. The songs may still be a bop. We all like different things. Why is this a damn conversation?
I can't help but feel like it feels a little personal to her. Though.
Yes, that's what it's giving.
It's always dripping in that, like, my version. I believe that I'm doing the thing that's conscious and right and is the positive representation and the thing that should be popular, the should be. Sure. And I am upset about what is because I feel wronged in some way. That's what it is.
Envious.
And I wish we would see, and this would be a hot take, I'm sure, but I wish we would recognize it as anti-Blackness to believe that you have the prevailing idea of what should be representative of Blackness. Like, this idea of what you think is your one positive representation. That is anti-Black wrapped up in pro-Black attire. That's what it is. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, who are you to say, like, even this premise, like, I won't even concede to the premise that people have when it's like, oh, it's a stupid song. Okay, it's a bad message or whatever, people are having fun or whatever. And I'm just like, well, why is that? If we live in a capitalist society, we live in an anti-Black capitalist society that actively disenfranchises and systematically and systemically preys on Black people. The reality of that is that there are going to be Black people that exist, try to fight within that economy the other way, that are going to boost, to scam. There are a million other ways that those same things are categorized for white collar crime and all these other things, that all these wage theft, everything else that's happening within this capitalist society. What is the problem? What becomes the bad example when you have a song where people who exist within that world have a fun little song gassing up the that they know? Young Miami was a part of a hip hop duo with JT, who was a scammer, who did that to help support them, went to prison for that while Young Miami was there doing the group, whatever.
Lived experience.
I don't mean that. I literally mean that as a I'm not saying that as a Rita. That's not at all. That's literally not what I'm saying. I'm saying recognize the lived reality of her main, like, the people they know. These are people that they know. Why can't they have song? Why not? I'm like, why does that become like, oh, what a stupid? So why? What is the barometer?
Because it feels like, I think we're still in this place where, though the exact same types of gatekeeping that goes into the entertainment industry don't quite exist in the exact same way. Like, you can become popular independent of traditional media. You can do it online. You can become a creator. You can become a streamer. You can do indie, and it's less gate kept by the 6 white men who have record deals that they can give out to people.
Well, 5 now. One of them just died.
Oh, which one?
Clive.
Oh.
And nobody said.
And then she said some controversy about that too. India put Clive on blast. But go ahead, Candy. My bad.
But like, because of that, I think it's still some residual where, like, anxiety about who are the 4 Black people so and so that can represent us, when we're now in a situation where we can have more than 4 people. So it's like, you'd have 1 model, maybe 2 that was Black. You'd have 1, A-list Black actress, 1 A-list Black, maybe 2 3 A-list black male actors, where now you'd have Michael Jackson and others, and then you'd have Beyonce and others. Like, you could only have one person that was like the central figure, whereas now though it would still probably only be one or two central figures, the pathways to get there is a little bit more diverse. So you can have a scammer and a Pink Panthers who, you know, does the UK bubblegum early 2000s pop or whatever. You can have, you know, a black alt girl, or you can have a gay girl, you can have Kate One, you can have these things, but people feel like, oh, I want to be represented thoroughly by one person because at one point that's all I could rely on. And if I'm being represented by scammers, what does that look like on me? And I think that's a thing that a lot of older black people in particular, or those that were in the industry in the early 2000s, feel like they just can't separate themselves from for some reason.
And that's what I'm saying. Like this concern that people have, respectability politics of how black people are perceived to the world, which is to white people, how black people are being perceived outward to non-black people, is anti-black. Like, and even though I know one would try to say, let me make sure I said it, so like I could see people trying to pretend, well, she's not saying it's about what black people are perceived as, but remember what she was responding to. She was responding to a post. She was lending her support to a post saying, I'm calling for a boycott of Young Miami's song Spend That. I believe it's degrading to our culture. At some point, we have to take seriously the power music has over our perception and the values it reinforces. This can't be the song of the summer. It's this policing, this worry that, as though the problem with the worry that black people are going to be perceived as this is because that worry exists on the incorrect notion that black people are treated this way by the world. Black people are being systemically disenfranchised. Black people are being discriminated against because of their perception of us, when that is not true. Nothing about what they think about black people or how we behave or how we conform has anything to do with anti-blackness or the systemic realities that we face. And that's the problem with it.
Whether we walk around in suits or whether we are every stereotype that you believe, they still don't like your ass. There's nothing you could have done.
And we do need I was going to say that we do need, until we're able to escape this tyranny of the monomyth in regards to just being black, because there are scammers. And indeed, it is a snapshot. That is what music is. It's a representation of the times. It's a snapshot of the times. And I do think that we have scammers in our lives. We have cousins. We have family members that have gone to jail, that have been through the system. We have people that are actually seen by what Young Miami is saying. And that should be valid. Those people do deserve to exist. And the problem, or the idea that you can't have them there because they are an emblem of the black community, is very much part and parcel of the fact that we're robbed of individuality in general. Like, you could have a million different ways. I think about this a lot of the time with me, bringing it back to me, insofar as just like white people white men specifically could do a dance and all kind of different things. They could take care of themselves. As soon as big body do it, big body like man. As soon as big body, do squats on, it's like, and it's a matter of, I'm just like, it's interesting because white men don't have to necessarily go through that, and you're basically saying that at scale here. Like, anytime, like when one of us do anything, it's a condemnation of us all. Like if a black, like when Ashley Janae, rest her soul, was with the white dude and they gone over to Tanzania, and then she ended up hanging herself, and then now all of a sudden that black woman, instead of trying to center her in the time when she is, her body ain't even in the ground yet, they are now using her as an avatar, a scapegoat of the dangers associated with black women engaging in hypergamous dating with white men. She no longer has a right to die. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have the singleness and the wholeness of just being dead and getting into the ground. Her meaning of her death has translated into something else that takes its own life. So now she has to be, parishioned around in the streets of Twitter and Threads and whatnot as a hanging, a public pillaring in the square for what happens when you date white men. So as black people, and we do it to ourselves, we oftentimes use each other as cudgels to one another. You see this with Megan Thee Stallion as well, in regards to Tory Lanez. Like, they use her as a barometer for exactly how you feel about misogynoir, but no, that's a woman. You know what I mean? Like, she's not a barometer. She's not a test. She's a person. And she's a flawed person. She could be a victim as well as a perpetrator and all of these different things at the same time. So of course, course you're not going to be able to use her as a barometer or a test, because the test isn't a structured thing. It's not a fixed thing. We do that to ourselves. And until we can actually have the right to up too. And I think that I grapple with that on a regular basis because, we're not brands, we're not fixed entities. We are going to fuck up. If we live right and live long enough, we are going to be absolute bastardizations of what we once were. And we deserve that. I deserve it. I want my son to live like that. I hope that if he were to grow and he were to scam someone or he were to rob, I hope that he gets the same grace given to other people that don't look like him. So I think that people like Arie and her class, I wonder if they actually do care about the issue itself, or they more so care that they're just not the ones able to do it too. And I actually mean that also in the reverse. Do we care about the scourge of scamming? If we did, we would actually hold the systems accountable itself. But taking that to its logical conclusion, this is a question for all the rest of them. When a R. Kelly does what he does, when a Cosby does what he does, and we talk about, okay, well, they're just trying to bring the black man down, do we just want to be able to do that shit too?
That's my thing is too. It's one thing when they be having this conversation when we talking about like the songs about murder, glorifying murder or something like that or whatever. And it's like, oh, that's not something we should go around. That's something we should stop. You can't have a conversation. If we're talking scamming and boosting, you cannot tell me if you're saying scamming and boosting is an epidemic to you, a problem you have, scamming and boosting is the result of the actual problem. It is a symptom of the bigger problem. So your problem still cannot be with who your problem seems to be with. Then the problem, if you're mad about scamming and boosting, you can't be like, oh, the problems that our people are scamming and boosting. Why?
But it's too hard. It's too hard to fight vertically, but it's easier to hit laterally, right? So like we can't reach the systems like capitalism. It's too abstract. It's too vague. It's too high.
And what about boosting wages? People be stealing from workers all the time.
Absolutely. But are we gonna? But who's gonna? Are we going to organize to the point where we can actually get into the faces of Target, which we did? We did that shit, right?
But the gag is of them.
Did we though? Did we really gag Target?
I'm in the Bahamas, so I got
we ain't Target. We should have gagged Target.
I've been boycotting Target for all this time because I'm in the Bahamas.
That I want to stop.
I feel like there is a good faith argument, though. There's a good faith argument to have. It's not exclusive to this conversation. It's a more macro conversation about like how Black people who are a minority in America and like in the West, how we are represented, not exclusively from this scamming song, like, but just more specifically or more, actually maybe less specifically to the scamming song, or just more so about like when you are a minority, we can talk about the more structural issues, but I think it is something to be said. Like I think about when I first took Intro to Media and I watched Birth of a Nation, and I saw how there was a rise when the Ku Klux Klan were displayed on TV, how there was a rise in lynchings, and how art and media can influence people to make real decisions. I'm not talking about people going out and scamming and influence people to scam, because the real scam is the conditions that create economic insecurity, right? But I think it becomes very spooky or suspicious when we see similar kinds of, whether it's men or women, repeating the same themes, where Black people are presented as the spokespeople of societal degradation, when we are the victims of the things that are degrading society, because it's a stratified system where Black people are at the bottom, right? And so I think when people are coming at, there is a good faith argument to be had about like, we want to using these opportunities to say, well, maybe we should be pedestalizing and pushing artists, art. And when I say artists, I do not include Young Miami. She's a rapper. She happens to rap, but she is not an artist, right? When I see people who are rapping, we need to be uplifting music, media, movies, because it's not giving me art. But to each their own. This is my individual opinion, right? Everybody has opinion. Like, so you can wipe your ass with my opinion. But what I'm saying is, I feel like the discourse that we should be like we're having right now, when these conversations happen, we should see a greater onslaught of people promoting the folks that you want to hear. I like the Scam That Shit song, right? I've never scammed nobody in my life, but I like the energy of it. But I do understand that there's a pattern of, like I said, I forget who did this video. I watched it years ago, but like someone who was talking about like that reviewed all of the top 10, the Billboard Hot 100 Black women who have been on the Billboard Hot 100 over the past 40 years. And a lot of those songs or those artists or the themes of those songs have been around sexual performance. When it comes to Black men, a lot of those themes of those songs have been around violence or whatever the things are. And I'm not trying to sound like a right-wing talking head. I'm saying like those people can make that music because it reflects their lived experience. But we are overrepresented in certain areas, and we are starved for representation. Like even when Kenny said like we have more than 4 or 5 options, I don't know because at the top of our the radio is not pushing the music the way that it used to, but the social media algorithm is pushing the songs and the conversations. And it seems like we're going in circles with the same forms of representation by the same bodies. And I feel like if we're really talking about ways that we want to be free or we want to see ourselves actualized in positive and negative ways, it's we want a society where we're free to be represented and propagated when we're doing both of those things at equal rates.
Young Miami and the City Girls have 900 songs that ain't never touched a motherfucking chart, ain't hit no kind of real commercial success. Young Miami been dropping single after single after single trying to make one stick, and she finally got one motherfucking one, and is acting like it's the fall of
well, my take was bigger than
lady. And also what I was trying to say before was the irony of when we say like, oh, like the bigger conversation is that like instead of talking about scamming and boosting, it should be about this the larger theft, the wage theft, the system itself, capitalism, XYZ. And the irony is that this conversation kind of starts on the internet from when I said Keandria's stupid post putting I Love Boosters and Spend That together because they're using the Spend That song, whatever, in association to like some promo and fun around I Love Boosters. But I Love Boosters, the movie itself is quite literally about the fact that you think it's presenting like the problem is the scammers and the boosters, but the problem is this actual system stealing from the workers. That's what the whole movie is about. And yet, like, people's refusal to engage with that conversation is what's blowing my fucking mind, all while actually like using the thing that's trying to have that conversation like with it. Like that, it's like what is the desire to like representational politics to like get so caught up on representational politics and how we're represented and what's this and what's that and yada 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 than ever like the conversation of why this is happening, so, what is the problem, where it comes from.
So that's what, like I am 100%, I like everybody's take. I agree with it. I think that's the whole point of what's the conversation that's should be, like you said, or being had on the internet with an artist in the music of NDRE. Girl, you talk about systemic issues, the status quo and fighting that. And you talk about the complexities of the Black woman all through your music. And for you to sit here and go under, like y'all put up, like you pointed out, that post. We don't care about who wrote that. You went under there to share a thought, which is something that to me, you were going under to share a thought because you agree with what that was. So after that, you come out there and try to say, I didn't call for the boycott. This person did. Yet, this is everybody came. Yeah, that's what it gave. She said she did not. But for her, she was just going under post and sharing her thoughts. I'm like, you know better than that. As somebody who has made countless songs about this very thing that they're trying to put Young Miami under, whether you like her song or not, you know better than to come out here that way, because you also when you started out in the game, and I'm gonna go back to a point that you made, Kenny, but when NDRE started out in the game, she was singled out for the type of music and things that she made. She may not have been talking about scamming, but she was talking about things where people were like, not at that time trying to relate to. So she was singled out in her genre of music. So she talks about similar things. And I know that she may not want to see it that way right now. But to me, it's the very thing you said, Kenny, because it's like, I think now it's like she's looking like it's not, this experience that I've been through. Love NDRE, but it's given, girl, you're saying that Young Miami is not allowed to say that she's gone through it, or people are not allowed to say that Young Miami has experienced this as far as being an artist in the business and being told that you can't get anywhere or your artistry isn't good enough. And like it or not, Arie went through the same thing. And for her, I don't want her, to me, the message gives that experience is just reserved for a type of person. And again, it's coming off, and I don't believe that she is, but it is coming off very elitist. You're speaking to her audience and telling them that because you consume this music, you aren't free, right?
Although parental. That's
I was about to mention that, like, insofar as I think that this actually is kind of related to what I've seen, and I'd love for y'all to chime in. But oftentimes, like when I talk to my homegirls about it, they often feel that there's no elder guidance that is actually trying to foster the reality of which it seems like the reality that India is criticizing. So you see this like with Nicki Minaj, how combative she is towards people coming up, despite her being, I think inarguably at one point the queen.
One of the greatest.
Yeah, one of the greatest to do it.
Say an elder.
Before we get deeper into the video, y'all know your girl has merch, right? That's right. The Illuminativerse has merch, so you can rep your favorite channel. Whether you're an Illuminati pop girl like myself, an Olay and chill enthusiast like my baby sister, an Olay and Friends stan like all my friends, or somebody who locks in for my 2-hour Illuminati productions, we've got something for you. We've got mugs, shirts, and hats. It's all very cute because Cartoon Me is adorable. Shout out to Tuner Tariq for being the man behind her. And to my pop watchers in particular, please know that you wore me down and I finally gave y'all a shoot me with your big gun merch that y'all kept begging for. Look how cute your shoot me with your big gun merch is. Oh my God, to be an Illuminati pop girly. I genuinely love my merch. Not just because it's mine, but because I ordered everything myself before showing it to y'all so that I could make sure the quality was good, because I can't have y'all spending y'all hard-earned money on garbage. Which is why I am pleased to report that I now have a cupboard full of the most beautiful glossy mugs and a drawer full of the comfiest Illuminati shirts. So if you've ever wanted to support the channel, rep your favorite corner of the Illuminativerse, or just walk around with my cartoon face on your chest like a true Illuminati fan, check out the merch store linked in the description below, or go to illuminati-shop.fourthwall.com, or use the QR code on screen to make sure you get your Illuminati merch today. That's illuminati-shop.fourthwall.com, or click the link in the description, or use the QR code on screen to run me your money today. Now let's get back to the video.
I wasn't gonna say Elder Corner. I ain't want the bobs on me.
She's older than the girl.
The mother of the hip hop church. She is a mother of the hip hop church.
And there's so many people of which have looked up to her, have patterned their styles after, but at the same time, she hasn't necessarily. Nah, I ain't want to be in enemy territory here. But what I'm trying to say is, right, a lot of the time, because of the ways that patriarchy operates, and it makes it seem as though there's a scarcity of seats when it comes to female representation in many of these different places, whether it be media, whether it be, politics and all of this other stuff. They pit women against each other to the point where they may have the experiences like an Arie, but they also might feel like the youngins need to go through what they went through in order to, I don't know, character development or something like that.
I agree with that.
They feel as though like their position in relevancy is being threatened, and they have to find some way to humble them. Otherwise, what does that mean for them? And you don't find that necessarily with men. A lot of the time inside, like a lot of different cases, like, yeah, sure, rap is argumentative.
They do it differently. They do it differently. It's like, oh, y'all don't know real rap, you a mumble rapper, you know what I mean? They find those kinds of ways to subjugate, to
sun each other.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a way.
Drake is still being sunned by Jay-Z to this day.
That's
wig off, wig on.
Yeah, exactly, Arie. That's how they do it.
But I do think that we should go down this rabbit hole of Nicki Minaj. What did you say? That she was the queen of rap, Big Body Man? Did you say that Nicki Minaj was the queen of rap and that all these bitches need to give her things? I don't actually let me do that. No.
I think
she
it's
is a conservative MAGA Republican, and so I can't give her 10.
That she was maybe
at a point in time.
She's a seminal influence on hip hop.
Yeah, but today is today.
Today she's the queen of rap. Today, and she just sucks.
Today
she just has terrible,
she
awful.
Tarnished that for herself. She tarnished her.
We might. There might be.
So if she's not the queen of rap, who the queen of rap?
Maybe maybe there's still the campaign trail is still happening.
But
ain't no way if there's no
election,
it's coming up on Princess.
So who's the queen of rap? Queens are not elected.
Doechii.
That's very democratic of you, but that's the monarchy.
However, it ain't Nicki.
What I've done.
I think there's something to be said. I think there's something to be said about the assumption that is innately a monarchy, right? Why?
Well, if we say queen, it's giving a regent set.
What I mean is, part of the reason why someone is elected,
you're born queen, honey. And in this case, it's the talent that makes you rise to that state. She's a terrible, awful, dehumanizing, homophobic, misogynistic, femphobic woman, and we can call her all those things. But she is the most talented, decorated, versatile female rapper, and therefore she is the queen of rap.
Nicki music in recent years has not been up to speed.
Oh yeah, everything after Queen.
And she's alive now, making music. So like it matters. Like it matters. If you're
making music,
but you can't clearly say the queen
matters. All that shit comes into play when we talk about it. If you're gonna be a MAGA Republican tap dancing misogynist married to a rapist doing shit, the music better pay.
Not Olay giving Iyanla, not on my watch.
No, she's not the queen no more.
But Olay, you cannot clearly articulate who's the queen if it's not Nicki.
That's what I'm saying, though. There shouldn't be a singular person.
But
there's a king of pop. There's a queen of soul. There is in every genre. There's a king of rock and roll. There is a queen of rock and roll. In every genre of music, this is something people have been doing for decades. There's been someone who reigns atop that genre, as demonstrated not by their awful politics, their dehumanizing ways. And I do think Nicki Minaj just put out shit music. I didn't even like Queen. I thought that the lyricism was there, but sonically it wasn't there for me. I think she's put out shit music for a while. However, I just don't think that there is someone who has put out a catalog or an oeuvre of work that has demonstrated themselves to be even close, not even numerically, categorically, versatility. It's just that person doesn't exist yet. I would love for them to exist.
I disagree.
They just don't exist. So who are they?
No, they're there, but I mean,
because if I say people, then we got to get into a whole long argument, diatribe, back and forth, explaining why that is. And the episode is no longer that. That's an Illuminati extras conversation. But just know, I don't agree.
Okay. Maybe we'll talk about it when this is over. I need to know who you think
is not the queen of rap, and thus should not be treated.
But who is though? I'm not gonna push back anymore. If you just say one name, one name. I'm not gonna push back any further. If you tell me, because I don't like that lady. I actually think that she's been homophobic for quite some time, and I've been saying this behind the scenes for a while. So I actually don't like that woman, independent of her recent politic shit. I'm just curious when we're talking about talent, versatility, numbers, and statistics.
I think honestly, we would have to first of all start with, I don't think Nicki Minaj is even half as well-rounded as an artist that we pretend she is, especially when you consider the standard that we hold to women artists and stuff. Nicki can't even Nicki's a horrible performer. Nicki's not even a good performer. There's so many different levels to which I think Nicki is an overrated artist, but she exists in the time where we were all making consensus. We were agreeing. Like, oh, she was undisputably the best of her time when we decided she was the queen. And now because we exist in an era where there are so many female rappers and there's so many good, we will not bring ourselves to pick one of them or to acknowledge anybody as better. But I think there's lots of that if we talk in talent and
Doechii lives.
She
has breath in her body.
Could run circles around Nicki, but with
Meg the Stallion, she up there
about Young Miami.
I think we beat Young Miami
because
with
Young Miami is not a good rapper.
This right here is waking me up.
We can't speak about
there are people who will wrap circles around Nicki Minaj today, right now.
No name, Rhapsody,
no preparation. Just get here right now. No preparation. You, Megan versus Nicki Minaj, Doechii versus Nicki Minaj. But I don't. Performance is not a part of the category.
You're talking about
rap. This is not me arguing
rap is about rhythm and poetry.
I'm just to make a point. I'm not arguing Cardi's the queen of rap. I just want to be clear. I don't think Cardi makes better album, better projects than Nicki. She's a better performer.
I think if Offset didn't do it, like I think Cardi would have definitely. Well, we can't speculate on what could have been, but I think
because we can live in what he is. Why don't we live in what? And this is the
what it is. I think that Cardi right now
is what.
Boy, But listen,
and is what
for what exists right now, Cardi's
I do not think a
PR is far
Nicki
better than
Minaj
Nicki's.
What you think,
the PR is great. We're not talking about Queen of PR.
Amazing highs in her career.
We're talking about rap.
Amazing moments, amazing features, amazing songs. I don't think Nicki Minaj has a project. A project top to finish that I think belong in a conversation.
Aretha Franklin, let me be clear. Aretha Franklin is still the queen of soul. She's been dead for some time. Michael Jackson is still the king of pop. He's been dead for some time.
Luther Vandross.
So when we talk about Queen, it has nothing to do with the output currently. It has nothing to do with the output. And also, Michael Jackson's last album was not doing it for me. It has nothing to do with the output currently or even the latest projects.
Ever. I'm saying I never thought the Pink Print go all the way back. I don't think Nicki Minaj
that's fine. I thought that's fine.
Start to finish, that belongs.
I thought the Pink Print was cunt. I thought that it was incredibly versatile. I thought, and here's what I'll say, because I don't want to be, I feel like this is, again, framing me to be like, I'm a Nicki Minaj stan, and I'm not. I actually don't like her as a human being.
No, you can tell the truth and still.
I like her art. And I think that Nicki Minaj is, when you say, she's not half as versatile as or as good as we think she is, or pretend she is. I don't know who the we is. I pretend I see her for exactly where she is. And that is, she's rapped on gospel, country, pop, hip hop, R&B, soul. And so that level of versatility, like right now, my favorite lyricist right now, rapper, or not lyricist, I'll say, but my favorite rapper right now is probably Megan Thee Stallion. And people say she's a one-note girl. I live for that note. I live for that pocket. And she could stay there her whole career, and I live for that. But Megan won't do as well on a gospel record or on a country record. And that level of versatility.
I disagree. And there's not the
when you're talking about rhythm and poetry,
bring the Koreans and the Japanese on the track, and
rhythm and poetry.
That Megan was doing
that Megan who you could take the same flow. And listen, and I love Megan, so let's not do this. But that Megan who we could take that same flow and take, if we remove the words and took the beat of the flow, the rhythm of the flow, it's going to be very similar across 15 different songs. So you can throw Japanese and Chinese and Vietnamese on it all you would like. However, it's still giving me a very similar.
My girl,
it's pound down to the ground, and sometimes we need soft.
And my girl have all kind of.
I love Megan. I just think she's my favorite rapper.
I think Megan and Cardi have been bitches to like play around with other kinds of music or whatever. But I'm not gonna debate you on whether or not you think Nicki Minaj is versatile. I think there's a lot of shit in Nicki Minaj. What makes it? I don't even think Nicki Minaj has a classic album. I think Nicki Minaj has music. Not that I didn't like the Pink Print and these projects when they came out, but most of them have all aged horribly. Like just stupid, silly, gimmicky Roman nonsense bullshit that her audience and said it. They liked it. We liked it. We're younger than it doesn't age well. Like you can listen to the Blueprint. You can listen to Illmatic.
That's funny.
No, there's a niche of people. The Barbs are gonna listen to the Pink Print for the death of them, but not everybody else.
I think a lot of the Barbs too are more so just conflictual rather than actually fans of her music.
She's a singles artist. Everybody's not an album artist. She's a singles artist. Right. That's why most of her Hot 100 entries are on features, or like everybody is not. There are so many people who create bodies of work where it's like, and I do like some. I like the Pink Print. I like Pink Friday. I like those bodies of work. But I when you say she doesn't have a classic album, to me she's not an album artist. But that doesn't take away from her skill within the genre of rap and poetry.
It does to me. When you're saying like how you decide versatility, we all have our different rubrics for what matters. When what makes you think Nicki Minaj is undisputed, that like, oh, nobody. Well, for me, I don't think you make great projects. I think you suck. I don't think you can perform. I don't think you can dance. I think, honestly, in a world where I look at the standards that we hold female artists to do and what they have to do on stage, and you look at how Nicki Minaj has been performing from the beginning of her career to now, it never got better. It's not good. No, I'm so sorry. She don't move me like that. And then on top of that, be horrible. No, bitch, you gotta pick one. You gotta give me something.
Yeah, she sucks. She sucks, but she is. And I agree with so many of your takes. Actually, like she's not a good performer. I will hear. I don't believe that she doesn't have a classic album, but I also, as you say, these are subjective rubrics, right? So but I will say like, oh, I can totally hear that. Like it doesn't sound out of this world.
I think she is beautiful. Undeniable.
Yeah, she's pretty as hell.
Beautiful gowns.
Those things are true.
I think she ushered in. She was she was the queen of rap. I would never take that.
I think she fell from grace.
But I don't. Nicki Minaj is dead to me as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, she is. I don't give a fuck about Nicki. Nothing that Nicki do.
You can look at the camera.
Yeah. But my thing is, if she was the queen of rap, that means that somebody else is that now. Like that would be saying like Michael Jackson was the king of pop. Or Aretha Franklin was the queen of soul. We don't the genre continues. So
but they call Queen Latifah at her time the queen of it.
To acknowledge,
and then she was dethroned.
The time,
and that's what I'm saying. So Nicki fell from grace. The throne will now be filled with somebody else. And right now, whatever
willing to recognize, somebody as the kings and queens or whatever and stuff have changed. That's what we're not acknowledging. The last time was making consensus to really agreeing on this kind of stuff was in high school.
She lives, she breathes.
Doechii don't even. I love Doechii. First of all, let me actually pull out.
But she's coming up.
I love Doechii. Doechii doesn't even have a debut album, Diva. So for you to say that Doechii is the queen of, and I love Doechii.
Let her cook.
I think
isn't the
Alligator Best Never Hit was a mixtape.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, so she doesn't even have a debut album. And she's the queen. She's the queen.
Remember when Nicki Minaj first dropped and everybody was calling her the queen when she just had, she was calling herself the queen. And she had a mixtape, right? Nicki Minaj, before she dropped, it was like mixes, remixes. When she first dropped, before she dropped her first album, this is facts. I was in college and I was saying that.
Nobody with real critical thinking was saying she was the queen of rap when she was just doing mixtapes.
She was calling herself the queen. And as for me and my household right now, since there is a spot, like you said, there's a vacancy. There's a vacancy.
Word to, you know what I mean?
Word to my good sis Arie Lennox. There's a vacancy here, and we should definitely fill it. And for me and my household, it's going to be my good sis. Yes. Okay.
Okay, vinyl.
No, I buy the girls' music. You know who buying your album?
You do, and
I'm buying the girls' music.
I think we don't exist in the times that where think about it like shoots the times where we used to have consensus on who is the king or queens or rapper or genres, the times when like the fucking XXL freshman class truly mattered and shit, like where it was a different time. People I don't know how to like, I would have to like really sit down and think about it and come up with the words to describe what I think has changed or why we as a culture are not prepared to give somebody that. But I think we will not do it. Like even if there was like, you can't get the kind of like the kind of acquiescence you saw people to being like, okay, Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole are our top three. And remember when it was like, oh, Wale and Big Sean there, like where we would agree to some sense of a ranking, like a top five, like that doesn't really, that's not really the times that we are in. So it's just not really something I bottom myself with. Like and quite frankly, don't matter that much to me. Because when you think about it, if I think about like, oh, the top three of like, oh, when fighting between where there's Drake and Kendrick, and then it's this, and then people are like, okay, it's officially Kendrick. I don't give a what say. Like J. Cole was always in the third spot for everybody else, and he was always in number one for me. So I don't care. You know what I mean? Like for me, he was always in third to them, and always
I do love J. Cole. He's an excellent rapper.
They can talk about him the way they want, all they want. We running that shit to the fucking ground in here. Chance the Rapper matters in my household a lot more than he matters to other people out in there. So you know, I don't give a what these.
That's because you be smoking. That's because you be smoking. Let me tell you something about a piehead.
Loves Chance the Rapper.
The pieheads love Chance.
I like Chance the Rapper fans in this house. He loves Chance the Rapper. We love
him. That tracks. Yeah. I feel like too. There's not enough cultural ubiquity to agree on. No one has the capacity to be culturally ubiquitous in the way that they could in the 2010s and prior. Yeah. So but that's why that's even more reason I feel like, you know, Nicki Minaj has been putting out slop and has put at all of the slop albums she put out has outsold by like either 10 times the amount
because the people
of the active female rappers
for a long time.
Or like even the top girls like who are new, Doja, Megan, are doing at their very best half the numbers.
Because they made their fans at a different time, but that is a reflection of the times. They made their fans in a different time, in a different world. It just was different then. Like, it just was. Yeah. Nicki Minaj has a bunch of mentally ill fans who've been mentally ill for 10 to 15 years. Okay? They're not well.
That is a professional diagnosis. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, this is a medical diagnosis. If you someone you know, someone you love, has been identifying as a bar for the past 10 plus years, you need to see a doctor quick. Actually, you're entitled to a settlement. You are entitled to a settlement. Get on down to your local attorney. Shout out to everybody who is sane
I thought you were going to say everyone who is mentally ill.
Somebody with social anxiety.
He said same.
I honestly feel like the only people who, well, you know what, who's kind of like in that middle space, where this conversation is going everywhere, but like now, like straight. There are no, I don't think there's any new artists. When I say new, I mean anybody who came out approaching the pandemic and beyond. So like 2019 to now. None of these girls, if Doja dropped in 2011, baby.
She was doing a good run before she got real weird. She was doing a good run.
And things started coming out.
And I still think, like, my thing is, again, I
agree with you, Kenny.
I personally, and I know that this is the opposite from how, like, everybody, like, the industries at large and consumers and everybody is moving currently. People are moving more to this in this direction. I'm moving the opposite. People are very concerned with what is the relevance of what is everybody talking about more than they actually even care about truly metrics. Like something could be really popular and being watched and consumed by a lot or whatever, and no one gives a fuck if it's not being like talked about and chatted about. Everybody like cares a lot about that. And to me, that is such a big part of why we're so like the people care so much about that in the same breath that they hate what virality and chasing virality and everybody who this and that has like done to art and all of that. I am choosing to unplug completely from that. And like who I know is fire and phenomenal. Like I know what it is.
That's what you'll listen to.
Recognize that even if you don't exist in the time period, that will appreciate that. Doja is better than a lot of this shit that like.
She's good.
Again, if Nicki and them had come out in a time where they had the kind of competitive landscape, if Doja and all of these people existed in the same landscape, we wouldn't talk about Nicki and Receive It or Wait Till We Do.
But you know who you didn't mention? You know who none of you guys mentioned at all? And I didn't hear you guys mention it at all. You didn't mention Young Miami. And there's a reason for that because she's not, you know, even though she's an artist, she's not a rapper. She's not a great rapper. We've mentioned people who have artistry. We mentioned people who literally know the craft. We may not like how they get down in their personal. We may not like how they get down in conversations. But I said, we got to be honest. This is where people don't want to be. They don't want to be truthful. When we talk about Doja, she's been a messy girl online. But she's great. We can say that Nicki Minaj once at some point when she called herself queen, we can say yes, because the girls were copying the blueprint. They were doing that. They were. We can even talk about who Nicki Minaj didn't want to bow down to before that. We can talk about Lil' Kim. We can talk about Foxy. We can talk about artistry over the decades. But Young Miami will never be able to dip, slip, and slide up into the conversations because
I hate to sound like a Young Miami defense attorney right quick.
Never.
But Young Miami's recent shenanigans with Diddy has overshadowed an important part of recent hip hop history especially in terms of women's impact. City Girls, forget what their commercial success is.
City Girls
at a point, City Girls and Young Miami, like let's not forget if Young Miami had
City
such a positive,
Girls had JT.
but let's talk about Young Miami in specific. JT went to jail at the beginning of before City Girls truly had their fucking moment. City and Young Miami had to put the whole fucking group on her back while pregnant. Act up, y'all know JT ain't in them videos. It's just Young Miami.
She's not in the videos, but she's in the song.
JT, In My Feelings, all of this, it was just Miami. Miami was working while pregnant to like at the height of making that group.
I don't take that away from her. She did a great job holding it down.
Of all these things that people say, oh, City Girls down, City Girls this, City Boys this, all these different things. Like they were very Young Miami. Young Miami, even like Saucy Santana, that whole like City Girls was very. They have a very like significant cultural moment in that they do. So
we're talking about the queens of rap.
Young Miami that I want credit to be given to. Several things I'm going to say, and I've given y'all know I've criticized Young Miami. We have a whole episode of Olay Friends where we criticized her and her standing by Diddy nonsense and whatnot. But I do want to acknowledge there's something that people do when they like. When you see when we recognize somebody like a powerful mogul that we know has spent decades abusing women, men, boys, girls, everybody and their mother, like through his influence, his money, his this, and putting people like abuse is not only just physical, it's psychological. It changes the way you think. It conditions you to accept this, to be in this world. And if we see that with a million women, men, boys, and girls, I do think we need to acknowledge the very real possibility and likelihood that the relationship that Young Miami is having with this man, like the way she's thinking in and of itself, there is some abuse there. There's some coercion. There's still some not thinking straight, like being there. And I think like we do this thing where we expect like we expect victims to be, or women or people who get caught up in a situation to be perfect. You know what I mean? To be perfect, or to be the way the standards that we hold them to when we will hold support or grace open. It's like when I even think about like how people thought about like R. Kelly to like Azriel and the other girl, and they were like judging their social media and how they are and what they're talking. Like people would be like, oh, Young Miami is what's so nasty about Young Miami is how she was talking down to Daphne and the other one, and she was saying this like, oh, I'll have you on your knees and this and the next thing. But you gotta like think about what is abuse and grooming and years of predation and all these different things, and how that goes into how a person is going to present and how they perform. I think that's worth acknowledging within the criticism. We can't like hold Young Miami to the same standard that you're holding like Diddy. And to some degree, when people are saying like, oh, Young Miami shouldn't be like she shouldn't get the song of the summer because she shouldn't be rewarded for standing by this abusive man and being a misogynist and whatever have you. Like, the problem with a thought process like this in a culture, especially like hip hop, where like Diddy will come out and continue doing things, and there are a million abusive and all of them, like Kodak Black convicted of rape, did rape, eating this one, this is the next thing. The idea that women should be punished more harshly, that women should not be able to experience success if you perceive them as even being associated with or being too supportive to an abusive figure than the abusive figures themselves, is a problem. I think like it is inherently misogynist. I'm not saying that it's not justified to have a problem with Young Miami and not like it and to not label it misogyny and to not call her out on this, but to participate in one of Young Miami to be held to the harshest sentence doesn't make sense to me. And I think it fails to take into consideration, like when you think of the Young Miamis and the JTs, like gals who are from the hood was poor, this one scamming to try to make it out, this one pregnant, trying to put the group on her back. They come from these certain environments or whatever. You have to factor those things into when you think about the choices that they make, just like when you think about the music that they may make and all of these different things. I think it's like we do this thing where we like divorce them. They're successful and you see them as a celebrity, but you divorce them from their actual background and experiences. That people that come from the backgrounds that they do around the people that they are, latch on to the people that they do for success and all this, the day you first hear from them and you start hearing their voices, they don't have the most perfect politic. And I don't think I think we adopt a position like they should not be able to achieve success if you realize at the first, like, oh, you think misogynistic things, you're still spewing like all kind of harmful this is the next thing of anything, like it should be off you. I think you're going to eliminate that standard, eliminates a lot of Black people who come from horrible backgrounds from achieving anything. That's I don't know if that makes sense, if y'all understand. Like,
no, that's giving very much how the people did Chloe Bailey. She ain't come from the hood, but it definitely gives, like, I remember when Chloe Bailey did that feature with Chris Brown, and so many of her fans were like, she doesn't know what her fans want. Does she know her target demographic? Like, she's
that's
either
like an everyday conversation
or she's working with abusers, or it's like, I don't know. I feel like there is a disproportionate amount of ire reserved specifically for women and especially for Black women that is not directed where it needs to be directed, which is at the perpetrators of the crime, the perpetrators of the malfeasance, right? And it's like, again, Chris Brown has his staff member's face was mauled off. I'm telling you what I know. Allegedly. I don't want you to forget. I don't know if it was the face. I actually don't know if it was the face, so actually don't quote that. That is alleged. But they are permanently disfigured, and the girls
dog,
are
right?
not supporting.
His dog did that, right?
Disfigured
his dog, and he allegedly refused to call the police because he didn't want TMZ to come see him. He's on a press tour. It was too much going on. Allegedly.
And he's on a concert now. He's in the concert.
With all that millions. Like, she got millions. This happened. She got
millions. So this
and with
happened.
all that being said, nobody is talking about. Wait, what's going on?
No, you know what I find?
Lots of movement in somebody's life.
Have y'all heard YG song?
Wait, hold on. Nobody's talking about how Chloe Bailey's album dropped. Nobody's talking about how Chloe Bailey dropped the mixtape.
We're like, oh, like a killer.
About Chloe's mixtape.
That was recent, right?
You know you ain't want to talk about Chloe's mixtape.
I know about the YG thing.
You know
so
you ain't want to talk about
essentially, he made a whole song that was this sort of like
right, Kirby. I heard you.
This like play he was doing about some dude named Chris who was bamboozled by a trans woman in the club,
and then he started to think about whether he wants to kill her
or not. And then at the end, the trans person is like, some people were calling it like, wow, it's actually really affirming. It's like helpful. And it's not.
No, it's a
I feel like this Macklemore.
No, it's a fucking transfo. No,
break it down to me. I'm not really getting it.
Like 80-90% of the song is about some dude who's going through some existential crisis because he found a trans woman attractive, and he's like, oh, I'm a killer. Like, I am going to kill her. Well, he misgenders her, blah, blah, blah. I'm a killer, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, while he's like holding, he was like, what would you do? So he's like holding a gun up to this trans woman. Then the trans woman finally is able to say something and is basically like, I'm treated poorly. And what is it? Something like, I have struggles with identity, and that's inherently transphobic in and of itself.
This is a video.
The whole thing is crazy.
This is a music video, or this is
a video?
This is a music video, or this is real?
Nobody asked him to make it. It's
a song. It's a song that YG made, and it's like in his like Shakespearean way. He's like,
no,
this is my
Kirby, and that's my point. We're not talking about you. YG's on the track making fantasizing about murder trans women music, and
he's making
and nobody's talking about Chloe Bailey's album in the mix of all of this.
Kirby, please.
No, this is serious. No, I'm so sorry. This is serious. I actually just saw a streamer. I was scrolling on some social media platform, and there was a cis woman in the car with him, and she was sitting on his lap. And somebody in the chat while he was streaming said that cis woman was a dude, like trolling. They were like, "That's a dude, bro." Some light-skinned girl, medium, body wave, bust down, whoop-de-whoop. She did have a bit of a strong chin. However, there. With that being said, I'm saying that because I'm saying the strong chin might have influenced the comments in the streaming situation, whatever. So the people, Rebecca, please, the people in the chat were saying that it's a man. So he said, "Oh, show me a baby picture right now. Do you have a picture of you as a kid?" Now this is a biological cis woman. And she's like, "I think I have some." He's like, "Yeah, show it right now." Matter of fact, he's like, "Yeah, on the stream." And he's like, "All right, get off my lap. Get off my lap. All right, bro, get off my lap." So she's looking for the baby picture. Then she's like, "Can you just drop me off?" They pull over to kick her out of the car. It was getting very dangerous because then the other men in the car were like, "Yeah, they get all types of surgeries now. You don't know what these are out here doing." And as I'm watching this, I'm like, this is actually very, very dangerous. This woman is experiencing the consequences of transphobia because 1% of the population has been highlighted in a very specific, deleterious way. And we're seeing, and I've seen a lot of people have these conversations framed through the lens of like concern trolling for dark-skinned women in particular, where they're like, dark-skinned women should stop being so transphobic because you're going to be the first on the front line. This was a light-skinned, ethnically ambiguous woman who was getting, who I guess the chat thought was trans passing. So she was being transvestigated right there by all those men in that car. And it was a very dangerous situation. And I say that to say it's very important for people to understand that transphobia and all sorts of bigotry are pathological diseases. There's no actual real rhyme or reason. These people are unwell. So anybody can get it, including and not limited to dark skin, cis, trans. And so it's like, how about we just allow people to do what they want to do? If you're not trans woman attracted, that would be one thing for you to say, okay, I don't even know how you would navigate that situation with somebody in your lap as you on the way to go take a bath. I don't even know.
I go so far to say that shit don't happen that often. I think most straight men have a fantasy about like being caught up by a trans woman, like, oh, I would hate for this situation to happen where I'm hanging out with some girl and then come to find out it's a dude. Like that doesn't happen that often. Because that puts a lot of trans women in dangerous situations. A lot of trans women wouldn't put themselves in that. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that would, but like for the most part, like
that is
who the
terrible.
F is putting themselves in a knowingly unsafe situation like that?
It's a lot of people who do because the person is a streamer. This person has money or whatever, but that should have never happened. That should have never been something that.
And
that
even if she was trans, what the.
No, making the whole song, the song shit is crazy because first of all, the entire song is bullshit. Like you're literally just fantasizing about murdering a trans woman the entire
That's what I'm saying.
song.
It's this
fantasy,
everything's
violent, like, and then you being at the end like, oh, like as though you're posing it to the world is like, oh, what would you do? Like it's a conversation starter. Inherently, nothing can start from the conversation of like, oh, like would you just like keep with it or would you murder them? Those aren't reasonable choices. Like you're presenting that as though that is a reasonable thing to feel. Insane. For it to be your first instinct, should you be attracted to a trans woman? Like, oh my God,
also unprovoked too.
No, it's
like
what
so was this his story? Was this like his experience?
That's what I'm saying. Are you trying to get ahead of something? Like, what are you doing?
Because
he's capitalizing. He's capitalizing
sure
on this, that fear, or like this, because it's a cultural topic. Even though most people are not going to run into a trans person in their lifetime unless you probably live in like a big city. But most people are not. Or if you do run into a trans person, you're probably not going to know that they're trans. And so it's like, actually, I had a hot take about this that I was thinking about the other day. But we
want to give it?
No, I don't. I think it's going to be far. I think it's going to be far too messy, and I think I would need a not even messy. It's going to be too. I would need a trans person present to be able to present this idea that I have in order for it to be within the bounds of my own personal ethics.
Right.
So that I'm not going to. I do think that people are just capitalizing off of irrational fear of trans people existing near them.
Know we're in. It's the Joyner Lucas strategy, but backwards, like implemented to the times. Like this is the Trump time. Is the way everybody suddenly
in years.
Is the way suddenly there's pro-Christian propaganda, pro-trad wife stuff in everything. It's like the way like all of a sudden like so much Christianity and euphoria this season. You know what I mean? All of a sudden they be in white ass places in Love Is Blind. So like to me, that's like YG to Joyner Lucas's whole strategy was like, I'm gonna make these like storybook ass music about like the social issues of the time and race and da-da-da. And so,
didn't he just do a video with
this reason? So it's like trans people is all they're talking about right now. YG like let me get rappity about. Let me tell a story.
No. Joyner Lucas. John Lucas and Ben Shapiro is rapping.
Uncle Tom.
I did not.
Cut the camera, dead ass.
Was it Tom McDonald? It's one of them. I can't keep up with the.
It was one of them, but I know it was recently. It was just
Joyner Lucas recently.
I feel like this is the second time I've come on this platform, and Big Body Benz has been here, and we've been.
There's a lot of to go out.
Unfortunately, do you remember the last time I was here and I was wearing that like I don't know.
We were both matching green.
Yeah,
you got good takes.
Me and Rebecca are matching.
No, I think
we're matching.
You're
giving a little titty.
Oh, and y'all are matching too. And Kenny, you having a neutral to balance it all out.
She's the balance. She got the purple in the back and the little green on the shirt.
Who that in the back?
I like that. I feel like a show. I feel like a nice like that was a show.
That's a show.
Yeah, it was Tom McDonald.
If you enjoyed the video you just watched, congratulations! You've officially wandered into the Illuminati-verse. Now, before you get overwhelmed, let me explain where exactly you've landed, because apparently one YouTube channel was not enough for me. If you're looking for my biggest productions, the kinds of videos that require me to disappear into a cave for 6 weeks and emerge with an existential crisis, subscribe to Illuminati, my flagship channel, where you'll find my magnum opuses like If Pretty is a Privilege, Ugly is a Curse, How This Didn't Age Well Destroyed Media Literacy, How Men Become Aziz Ansari, Why Serial Killers Aren't Monsters, and so much more. If you're here because you love television, movies, and hearing me explain why everybody misunderstood your favorite character, subscribe to Illuminati Pop, my TV and film essay channel. That's where you'll find fun deep dives on How I Met Your Mother, Sex and the City, Desperate Housewives, You, Euphoria, Insecure, Girlfriends, and more. And if you'd like to watch my videos uncensored, get early access, and support the channel directly, just join the Illuminati Pop Patreon. If you are looking for chaos and a good time, subscribe to Olay and Chill, where I unpack reality TV, TikTok drama, documentaries, chaos in internet, and whatever nonsense the internet has cooked up this week. If you'd like to watch me and some of my favorite Black creators and thinkers come together to discuss the culture, subscribe to Olay and Friends. If you're looking for shorter commentary on whatever the internet is currently spiraling about or whatever's on my mind, subscribe to Illuminati Bites. If you want to watch me and my bitch Kenny JD laugh, overshare, talk a little shit, and unpack the messiness of life, love, and the internet, and whatever foolishness we watching, subscribe to Olay and Kenny. If politics is more your thing and where you know me from, subscribe to Illuminati Politics for my State of the Union like addresses on O Squared. And if music is your thing and you want to hear what I think about the latest albums and what I'm getting into, subscribe to Illuminati Extras. Subscribe to whichever corners of the Illuminati-verse speak to you, or subscribe to all of them and become a full-time resident. And while you're at it, you can follow me everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Twitter at Illuminati. You can also follow Illuminati Pop and Olay and Chill and Olay and Friends on social media so you never miss a thing. Welcome again to the Illuminati-verse. Now go look around a little bit, make yourself at home.